Hello, my most amazing artists. Today I'm going to show you a tutorial on how you can make your very own salt dough clay at home using 3 simple ingredients: flour, salt, and water. You may already have clay materials at home like Play-Doh or Model Magic even, but if you're like me, you don't. So I had to think of a creative way to make my own clay, and salt dough was a simple solution. We haven't done any lessons that require clay, but I thought this may be a fun for some of you that want to experiment with sculpting artwork at home. The recipe and material list for salt dough clay is listed in the video description down below, but I'm also going to be going over all the materials and all the steps in just a minute. So let's get started. To make salt dough, you need 3 ingredients, and these are pretty common ingredients that most people have at home. The first is you are going to need water. You are going to be using a 1/4 cup or 1/4 cup of water. The second is salt. You're going to need a 1/4 cup or a 1/4 cup of salt. And the last ingredient is flour. You are going to need a 1/2 cup of flour. Now, if you forgot those measurements already, I have them listed in the video description below, and I'll also be repeating them in a moment when we put all of our ingredients together. Other supplies that you're going to need is a mixing bowl, measuring cups. So I've got 2 types of measuring cups here. The first one is one like this you might have seen in your kitchen before. It is a clear measuring cup that has the measurements listed down the side, or in my case it has it on the side and on the inside, which is really handy. Or you can use these types of measuring cups. So I've got 2 sizes here. Here is the 1/2 cup size. This is the bigger size for the flour. And the smaller size is my 1/4 cup size for my salt and my water. So these will also work for measuring out your ingredients. You're also going to need a spatula or a spoon to mix everything together. And finally, I have a tray underneath all of my ingredients here. My tray is kind of acting like a messy mat to catch any mess that might fall out from my ingredients when I'm measuring or while I'm mixing. If you don't have to use a tray, of course, you could use newspaper or a tablecloth. I'm just trying to keep my work area tidy. Okay, to start mixing, I'm going to take my 1/4 cup of water, or my 1/4 cup of water, and add it into my mixing bowl. So I already have my 1/4 cup of water inside of my measuring cup here, so I'm going to dump it right in. Next, we need to add a 1/4 cup of salt or a 1/4 cup of salt. Now you could use this measuring cup again if you'd like to, or you can use this measuring cup, the smaller one, the 1/4 cup. If you are going to be using this measuring cup, you have to be careful that when you're adding your salt, you're not tilting it to the side to read the number, because then the ingredients will shift and you might not have the correct amount. So whenever you're using a cup like this, when you add ingredients inside, you have to make sure it's on a flat surface and that you add it from the top, and then you have to lean over like this and check it from the side to make sure that it is at the right amount. I'm going to actually use my 1/4 cup measuring cup like this, the smaller one, to add my salt. So I'm going to open up my salt here. I'm doing it over my tray, so in case I have any overflowing parts, my tray should catch those ingredients, and I'm going to keep my space a little clean. Oh, that's a lot of salt. Alright, here we go. Now I'm going to let my salt kind of soak in my water for a minute, and now we're going to add the flour. You are going to need a 1/2 cup of flour. And the 1/2 cup is double what I used for my salt. Now you can use a cup like this, or you can use this measuring cup again. It's up to you. I am going to use this one because I think it's easier to scoop it out of the bag than to pour it out. It gets kind of messy. Here we go. Opening up my flour, I'm going to scoop it out. It's interesting how flour has a really different texture than salt. Salt's really grainy and coarse, and flour is really nice and soft. So here I've filled up my cup, or my half a cup, excuse me, and I'm going to add that in. Now that I've added all of my ingredients, it's time to start mixing them all together. So I'm going to take my spatula or spoon or whatever you have for mixing, and we're going to start to slowly mix these ingredients together. And I'm not stirring super fast. I don't want this flour to go all over the place and become a big dusty mess. But you'll notice as you start to mix, it's really clumpy. But you're going to keep mixing because you want to kind of combine all of these materials together so that they become one like kind of consistent, almost cookie dough type consistency. Now, if your dough seems pretty dry, you might have to add a little bit of water to it if it's not coming together. But I'm going to just keep mixing here. I'm going to move this tin foil because it's driving me crazy. Okay, I'm still mixing. My salt dough is starting to come together, but it does seem a little bit dry. So at one point you might need to go in with your hands to knead the clay together. That's knead with a K. Kneading clay means that you are taking it and you're kind of mixing it with your hands. So I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to start to kind of mix it with my hands. This is going to help me figure out if I need to add more water. I'm kind of glad I didn't because I don't think I'm going to have to now that I'm kneading it. So kneading it with a K is different than kneading something like needing to take a nap, N-E-E-D. Kneading clay means that you are mixing it with together. Oh yeah, that's feeling really good. I've got some leftover in my bowl, but I think I just had a little bit too much flour. I can try to add it in, see how it's going. Now, as you are kneading, if it's cracking a little bit, I think I'm going to add just a tad of water, just a little bit on my hands. Maybe I could even go wet my hands in the sink so that my hands are just a little bit wet to mix in. This is kind of the consistency that you're going to want. You want it to be moldable like clay or Play-Doh even, and if it starts to crack, you can always take a little bit of water in your finger and rub over those cracks. There we go, this is awesome. So you can break this apart, you can roll it up, make little people out of it, egg shapes, heads, whatever. But remember, if your mixture seems off, so like for example, if it's really still kind of clumpy and dry, like you want it to be dry, but you don't want it to be like pieces falling out like that, you can add a little tiny bit of water. But what happens if your mixture is really soupy and there's lots of liquid in it yet? You can add a little more flour to your mixture to mix it together until you get a consistency like this. So now you've made homemade salt dough clay that you can sculpt all kinds of different things with. If you wanted your clay to have a little bit of color, you can add some food coloring to it, like a drop or two of color. And then the more drops you add, the darker the color will be. I don't have any food coloring, so I didn't add any. So add food coloring if you would like to. And there we go. We just made clay using only 3 ingredients. How awesome.
So there you have it. An easy way to make your own homemade salt dough clay using only 3 ingredients. Now, if you've made your clay and you don't plan on using it right away, it's super easy to store. You just need to put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in your fridge. But make sure you label it, because you don't want anybody going in there thinking it's good cookie dough and eating it. That would be the worst cookie ever. So make sure you label it as salt dough before you put it in your fridge. Alright, I hope you have fun experimenting making salt dough and creating your own sculptures at home with it. by my most amazing artists.